Hey guys, this is Cade Lamb with Fear Not Do Right, and this is the Fear Not Do Right podcast. So I'm sure you guys have heard the joke that Superman wears Chuck Norris pajamas. Well, Chuck Norris wears this guy's pajamas right here. Today I'm with the one and only Pat McNamara. What's going on, Pat?
All right, Cade, thanks so much for having me on. And man, Baxter hooked us up with this guitar shop. It's a great place to do a podcast.
Oh yeah, we're here in Casino Guitars in Southern Pines, North Carolina. Yep. And if you're familiar with like Nashville or like guitars or anything like that, you got Carter Guitars and all these cool vintage places. Casino is definitely one of those.
Yeah, it's neat. It's neat. I've only been in here a couple times. I should come here more often, seeing how I'm, musician, and I'm doing air quotes right now.
Yeah, well, when I was here at Bragg and really just grinding it out, living in the barracks and all that, every Saturday I'd come into Casino and just
nice.
I mean, Southern Pines it's not too far away from Bragg, but
right. You're
kind of there, and it's just such a good feel downtown. Mm-hmm. Well, and it's kind of weird though, because you'll see like one couple walk by you and you're like, I can't tell who's the man and who's the woman here. But then you see the next couple walk by and you're like, that is a literal caveman walking down the street.
Right. There we go. That's what I want to see.
Well, that's when you get into like your crowd.
Right.
So you have an interesting background. For those listening who aren't familiar with Pat McNamara, what they should know about you?
I'm a Connecticutite, that's where I grew up. Came in. You want before military or anything like that? I mean, just briefly before military, I was a quirky kid, just into like arts and flowers, stuff like that. Got into sports late teens. Got good at wrestling. Decided that I need to challenge myself further after high school, so joined the military and found a route into special operations. And I was like, man, that's what I want. I have no idea what it is. No idea, but that's the route. It just sounds hard, so I want to do that. And landed a slot on what is referred to as an 18 X-ray program, which means you could enlist for special forces right out the street. So I went to infantry basic training, to jump school, to the SF course, then one cool guy school after that, and then had just a bunch of really neat jobs in the military. Some, like foreign internal defense stuff during peacetime Army, but I had some real cool Cold War jobs in East Germany and Soviet occupied East Germany, and then once the Cold War started drying up and the wall come down, I went to selection for the unit and spent 13 years there. So I did a total of 22 years in the military, and it was all special ops time, which I was very fortunate. And it sounds right now like, oh man, that was just a cakewalk, and sounds like you're a badass troop and all this stuff. When in fact, it did not come without turmoil and just one setback, one injury, one failure after the other. I mean, it was one thing after the other. So, but it was a really good military career. I'm very thankful to have had it. And then when I retired, I started working in kind of the firearms industry as a trainer. And generated my own company in 2010, T-Max Inc. And I've been working under that ever since, where I do tactical training. I have online businesses. I sell stuff, and wrote a couple books. Working on another one right now, by the way.
Ooh, very nice.
Children's book.
Children's book.
Not a book that a kid... I'm not going to disclose too much about it because it's a really good idea. And here's the thing about good ideas. You share them with too many people and somebody's going to plagiarize it, because there's a lot of people out there who don't have ideas and they're looking to glom onto somebody else's. But it's not a book designed for a child to read. It's a book designed for a parent to read a child.
Okay.
To read to a child, which I did a lot of that with all my kids when they were little. I'd read them books, and it was fun. There's a parent-child bond, number one. Number two, if you're animated and you're not afraid of being theatrical, you could make that book a lot of fun for that kid. And then, you know, if the book's written well and it's got big pictures and beautiful animations and stuff, then the kid is going to want to return to that book. So I'm keeping all of those things in mind. You know, I want, you know, like big, bold print. I'm doing the illustrations too.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So I'm working on the illustrations right now, which there's some trepidation there because I could draw, but it's a whole different area of drawing because I need these to be palatable for a child's eye, these illustrations. And I was putting way too much thought into it initially, and I was just struggling making these images look lifelike. And I realized, dude, it's a freaking child's book. They can be janky. They can be playful. So once I gave myself permission to draw in that manner, man, I've been knocking them out. So I've got all the illustrations done in ink. Now I have to think about coloring them.
Yeah.
Which it's a whole new like level of just not necessarily fear, but there's some anxiety there. You know, I hope I don't mess these up, kind of thing. But yeah, so I've always got irons in the fire, always jamming new stuff into the pipeline.
What made you want to write a children's book?
Well, here's let me see, how much of this can I disclose? I'm going to disclose some of it. This is and this kind of ties in to probably some of the topics that you touch. So what makes me want to write a children's book is because the lack of awareness that children have today. The kiddie TV shows suck. There's no good lessons learned. It's like just overstimulation. And then too many parents become, they do what I call lazy parenting, and they give their kids devices. And it pains me to see a child in a stroller with a device, you know, with a pad or their parents' phone. It pains me to see a child out to dinner with their parents and they prop up what are those things called? Tablet in front of them so they could watch cartoons while they eat. You know, so I think one of the dangers with kids today is not with them right now. It's what's going to happen to them in the future. So with Generation Zers in general, they have never, ever, ever been bored. They've always had devices, computers, things of that nature. Right? So they've always had it. And without boredom, there's no imagination. There's no creativity. So I think the older you are, I mean, if you're like, I think 30 years and older, you've been bored as a child at some point, and you've had to be creative. You've had to, figure out what to do with the toys available and even the TV shows available. You know, so my generation, we were bored a lot, man. We figured stuff out, you know, and it's good brain food. So nowadays there's just a lack of creativity, and it's parents' fault, you know, and so that was my big, that's what pushed me. That's what motivated me. I just saw that, man, there's no awareness whatsoever with kids today. There's not, and with parents too. I mean, adults walk around in what I call 45-degree syndrome. They're glued to their devices. We are so connected that we are disconnected. You know, there's just this massive lack of awareness, and we've kind of relinquished intuitiveness. You know, which is it's a God-given defense mechanism. You know, built into our hard drive, and we're relinquishing all these primitive type of not necessarily skills, but traits, you know, like intuitiveness. We're just giving all that stuff up. So, you know, kids are innocent. They need and deserve better. So I just want to have as much of a positive influence on a young person as I can, and hope that, you know, that helps him succeed. Not necessarily in life, but helps him or her succeed as being a child. Mm-hmm. You know, where they go from there is out of my hands. But I do that with a bunch of different, like with my BDS, you know, my basic dude stuff.
Yeah.
So that was another reason I realized with this series I do basic dude stuff. It was unintended, not consequence, but it was an unintended thing that happened with basic dude stuff. Is I got a lot of little kids following me, and I realized, oh man, I have to keep this content clean.
Wait, you have a lot of little kids following you?
Yep. Not
Really?
necessarily that, but their parents show them my videos. So
Yeah.
the kids, through their parents, will send me every day. I get a video from a child from somewhere on the planet Earth, somewhere on the planet, not just North Carolina, United States of America, but on the planet, sending me a basic dude stuff video. So I find myself in this unique position to provide good content for little kids.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, who would have? I mean, look at me. I'm a total freaking knuckle dragger. But I think they just love that. Kids love that, the delivery, the gruffness.
Yeah.
That I'm like, it looks like I'm super serious, but they could see right through it.
Oh, yeah.
Little kids read right through that. You know, when I scowl at them, they're like, yeah. I'm 3 years old, and I know that you're kidding around.
Well, I think that kids just have such a strong gravitation and almost a desperation for anything that's real, and especially for men, like anything that's actually masculine, having a positive male role model nowadays.
Yes.
I mean, when you were my age, you were doing, I mean, as I understand it, you were doing some crazy shit.
Yeah.
Let's see. I'm 26 right now.
Yep.
Where were you when you were 26?
26. Hold on, stand by. Let me do the math real quick. 26, 20. So that was 95. Oh, I was in the unit. Yep. I was in the unit.
Oh wow.
Then, yep.
So younger than that, then you were in Eastern Berlin.
Yep.
Holy crap.
Eastern. So Soviet occupied East Germany.
Soviet occupied East Germany.
Yep.
What was that like? That had to be.
It was thrilling. I'm not gonna lie. It was thrilling. It was awesome. You know, I didn't really understand the gravity of it then, but looking back on it now, I mean, I was very fortunate to have been in that position that has extreme historical significance today. You know, and I was a part of all that, which was because it was all cat and mouse. You know, it was all cloak and dagger stuff. So, it was thrilling, and that was one job that I miss. You know, in the military, it was hairy. Don't get me wrong.
Bet.
Yeah, it was hairy. There was there was some slippery slope moments, but I loved it. It was great. Met some great people, and it was, you know, one of those when you got put into the position, it was definitely the drinking out the fire hose, you know, type of scenario where, man, sink or swim. You better learn this job quick.
Well, I mean, there's only so much schoolhouse teaching they can give you to be a spy,
Right.
Like that.
Yep.
What was it like? I mean, seeing, you know, the dissension almost. You know, I guess that's a good way to describe it, in how kids are acting today, and how, you know, there's just this general overreach from, air quotes, you know, the man. Is it starting to look like some of that Eastern Berlin type stuff? I mean,
no, because they weren't allowed to question authority. They find themselves in the Huskow, you know, in the gulag. So, I ran into very few. You know, working in Soviet occupied East Germany was like working it was like a black and white movie. I swear to God, man. You drive across the Glienicke from West Berlin, and it was like driving into a black and white movie. I mean, and I am not the only person to ever say that. You know, after thinking it, I remember hearing several people say it to me, and I was like, man, that's what I thought too. Like when you go into towns like Cottbus or Dresden, you know, it's like, whoa, oh man, I'm back in the 40s, 50s, you know.
wow.
Yeah, it was just, so yeah, there was no dissension or people, questioning authority or talking smack to the government. Oh man, some of our today's youth should, it would be great if they could hop into a time machine and time warp back there and stay there for a year. They'd be so grateful for what they have and where they are right now.
I know, it's so crazy. Well, and that's the other thing too, is like, because you were in your early 20s as a spy in Russian-occupied East Berlin.
Right.
I can't think of any young 20-year-old, guy in their young 20s who could wrap their brain around the intensity of that sort of situation.
Yeah.
I mean, and that's, kind of going back to earlier, like kids, like small children, just they feel that, like that need, like, and they one of the things that I run my own podcast, University of Badassery, and my friend who hosts it with me, CJ, we talk about this all the time. We're like, what is it that makes someone like me, like him, like several people in this industry tick? People are genuinely craving genuine. Yes.
Because there's so much fake out there.
Oh, yeah.
There's so much, I call it, candy-coated turds, Reese's Feces. It's so shiny and glittery on the outside, but inside it's nothing but crap. So they're genuinely craving genuine is the way I see it. And I can't fake it. That's all I know.
Yeah.
What you see is what you get. But apparently people like it. So why fake it?
Well, especially in your industry, and I'm kind of like I'm more of an end user in the industry. I'm like, hey, I'll go take some courses and I'll go to the range and I'll emulate and try and train and do better. But there's so many guys that, you have a very impressive resume going into it, but there's so many guys, especially within the industry, who want to be that and try to fake it. But even then, it's like, dude,
it doesn't. It doesn't.
It ain't
work,
it, man.
It doesn't work. Because people ask me a lot about like social media influence and what an influencer is, and I am very fortunate to have a massive following on several different platforms. And I look at other people, and number one, I don't get it. But the other thing I know is that it's short lived, because with them it's just copy paste, and the other people in the industry, they're doing the same thing: copy paste. So they're short lived. Where I see longevity, which is a good thing, because I'm in a very unique position, and I'm grateful, and it's very fulfilling to help people be better people. And I get a little emotional when I think about it. I really do. It's because there's no bigger reward. There's no other way that can fulfill a human more and make him more whole than to help another person be a better person. And it doesn't take much. No. It really doesn't. It really doesn't. Sometimes all you got to be is just positive all the time. Like, you know what? Do I fake it? Hell yeah, I fake it. I have real bad days, but I am not going to. I don't want people to wallow in my quagmire of. People want other people to wallow in their quagmire of pain, of hate, of being miserable, and I don't want people to wallow in the pain I feel when I have bad days, or if I'm emotionally down. If somebody asks me how I'm doing on those days, I always answer them with a smile, a grin, and say I'm awesome. I'm awesome. I'm awesome. Because, like I said, it doesn't take much, and the opposite applies too. It doesn't take much to bring somebody down. Yeah, it really doesn't. It could be 2 words, and you shot somebody's day to shit.
Well, it's like when your mom comes into the room super pissed, and she just starts like anger cleaning everything in the house and yelling at everybody. And you're like you haven't said a word to me, but just the whole vibe is now my whole day is ruined because mom's day is ruined. Right. And it's the same kind of thing. Right. And I think that we feel that, like you obviously get it, like that that internal need to help other people, that just comes down to a person's need to naturally, I mean, that's what parenting is.
Yep.
That's all parenting is you are making people, literally making people better people.
Right. Yeah. And like I said, what I realized was it doesn't, I don't feel like it's an obligation. I feel that I have an obligation to put out clean content, on the interwebs, but I am not obligated, nor do I feel that it's an obligation to make people better people. It's just what I'm doing through the messages that I'm putting out. It's not intentional, but it's fulfilling because that's what happened. That's what's happening. Yeah.
Well, when you're doing X, Y, and Z, like that's just going to be the natural byproduct. Like when you're doing the right things, when you're making sure that your body is clean, like your body's in shape. Like, I mean, because you're 57.
Bingo. Yeah.
Yeah. So you're 57 and you're in better shape than 98% of just people out there.
Yeah.
I mean, there's a couple of those crazy CrossFitters that can do nutty stuff, but for your age, being in the physical health that you're in, the mental health that you're in, the emotional and spiritual space. Because I mean, having a 22-year military career, I mean, I've only been in for 5 years. I can't imagine what 22 years would do to, your family relationships and everything like that. So, to be in that good space and to curate that who you are, I mean, the natural byproduct of that is empowering and uplifting other people.
It's to me, that's another thing that's mind blowing because, I post a lot of workout stuff online, and I do that because one of my businesses, Combat Strength Training, I put out. I'm an idea person, so I'm a minimalistic type of person when it comes to working out. My gym is in my driveway, and it's all very Spartan. And I want to encourage others to do the same thing. It's like, because I want to mitigate excuses. You don't need a lot of money. You don't have to go to a gym. You don't need a lot of time. What's your next excuse? Because those are the big excuses, right? Money, time, or they just don't like the gym atmosphere. Those are the big ones. So, and the other ones are their vicious cycle of event type of scenarios where, my knees hurt. Well, his knees hurt because he's gained so much weight. And he can't take the weight off because he can't exercise because his knees hurt. So I want to mitigate as many of these excuses as possible. So I post stuff because I'm an idea person and I want to give guys following my programming just ideas. But the feedback I get from all age groups is ridiculous. It's like, thanks, Mac, for posting that workout. I was sitting on the couch and was going to crack a beer, but instead I'm going to go in my garage and get a little workout, which is great. It's great. And there's nothing, once again, more fulfilling than helping people be better people. I'll get notes and pictures from guys that started following me a year ago, and they'll send me before and after pictures. And I'm like, damn, bro, a year. Check you out. I mean, you've lost a person, a human being in weight. And the other excuse is like age. People say, I'm getting too old and I'm broken up. Man, I've had 13 broken bones, concussion, TBI, 4 reconstructive surgeries, and tons of other wear and tear. It's not like I've lived this, cozy life wrapped in bubble wrap and in velvet gloves. I mean, dude, there's a lot of mileage on this combat chassis. So, I just want to mitigate as many excuses as possible and help people, just help drive them, help make them healthier and more self-governed. Self-governed. I think that's a big one too. There was one other thing I was going to say about that. And I forget, but I'll come back to it.
Well, I mean, maintaining a combat chassis, especially being a tier 1 guy, like you're crashing helicopters and vehicles and, busting down doors. That can't be, exactly easy on.
Nope. It's, Mm-mm.
Was there anything that OPSEC obviously, but like, was there anything in your time in that 22 years in SOF where you just had to like really grind it out physically?
Oh man, well, any one of the schools, it really. So like starting right at the beginning, not in like basic training and jump school, but starting right in the Q course, right in the SF course. The amount of rucking that we did. And I had no experience, because to be a good rucker, you've got to have some experience. The guys who were coming from 82nd Airborne Division, Ranger Battalion, they knew how to ruck. I didn't know how to ruck. And they just, it made it seem like they were like greased butter, where I struggled with that, especially in the North Carolina sand, and then like combat dive school. Oh, that was one of the most, it was physical. That was definitely the most physically demanding military school I've ever been to. That was, man, you had to reach down, I mean, and the attrition rate was massive. And everybody who went was prepared. You have to go to a prerequisite school just to go to combat dive school. And the prerequisite school sucks, because they want to make it harder than the school itself. But that one sucked. I mean, selection for the unit, woo, man, there were some days where, you go until you hallucinate. I mean, I have no other way to put it. You go until you hallucinate. But yeah, there was, oh man, I mean, that's a good question. I don't know if I've ever been asked it, but man, I could probably fill a page. And then just training exercises. Because training exercises, if you're in the right unit, they want those exercises to be all worst case scenario. So when you have combat operations, they're like, this ain't so bad, because training's a lot harder. I mean, so I think good commanders, good leaders are going to want the training to be as hard as possible, to prepare you for adverse conditions of combat.
Well, I'm sure training was dramatically different from, early 90s, mid 90s to the beginning of the GWA, which you kind of got to experience that huge shift into coin operations. And did you get to the deck of cards?
Oh yeah, sure.
You were hitting the dudes on the deck of cards?
Yep, absolutely. Yep.
That had to have been just
here's the thing too, when you're in and you're doing it, it's not a big deal. It's just a job. But you get out and you start reflecting and telling stories. It's like, oh man, I was a part of that, dude. That was cool. You recollect and you go, yeah, I guess that was a big deal. But and I know I'm not alone. Guys who were career special ops dudes who did a lot of stuff while they were doing it. It was run of the mill. Mm-hmm. It was just another day at the office. You get out, and the longer, not that I'm a rest on your laurels, POS, but when you reflect and you tell stories about it, or you're talking to other people about it, you go, man, that was a pretty big deal. And once again, very fortunate to have been a part of it. But man, I had the coolest career.
Now, did you have your kids when you were in?
Yes. They were still young. They were, and that was one of my, that was a big motivational factor for me to retire. Because they were little, and their mom wasn't responsible. She was not responsible. And I had to be there to be their parent. So I didn't, I always, that people say, do you regret retiring? Do you wish you had stayed in? Heck yeah. But I know that if something happened to me, my kids would have, they would have failed in life. They wouldn't have had a responsible parent if I wasn't there. So
that's a big move.
Yeah, it sucked, because it was early on in the GWAT. I pushed a couple times, and I was an E9, but I had to think about, did I do everything that I wanted to do? while I was in? And the answer was yes. So it was I was conflicted because I felt that I owed the unit more time. So that was the only thing that was going to keep me in. It wasn't, was I satisfied? Do I have a clean conscience? Did I do everything that I could have done? Absolutely yes. But, could I have stayed in? Heck yeah. Could have stayed in for, until 30 years.
Well, I think it's one of those things where it's a good, better, best scenario. There's a good option. There's a better option, and then there's the best option.
Right.
And right now I'm transitioning out of the Army, and seeing all these new guys come in, and especially with all the fog of conflict on the horizon, and you're like, I want to get after it, man. I want to train these dudes.
Right.
I want to,
yeah.
And that's a great option. That's a good option. There's some better options within there, but at the end of the day, what's the best option?
Yeah.
Because I know I have that feeling. The SEALs say it all the time. Who's going to carry the boats?
Right.
Who's going to do it if I'm not there? And I mean, that's kind of arrogant to think like, oh, I need to be there to do the job, but that it's that warrior ethos and mentality, and there's not a lot of people who can do, especially at where you were doing it. There's not many people doing that.
Right.
Not many people who can.
Yep. And no matter what decision you make, good, better, or best, I think you're still going to be conflicted. I just think so. But you've got to make, the best decision for you, your family, for your community. All those things come into play. So, I made mine. I was happy with it. But at the same token, I was just way back there in the recesses. I was like, man, I was conflicted.
No.
I was like, damn, I could have stayed in for a few more years, and really helped out. But yeah,
I think one of for me, so I did the same thing you did, 18 X-ray pipeline. And that's actually, for those listening, that's when I first met Pat 5 years ago,
right,
just down the block at O'Donnell's Pub. And he was, spitting me all this wisdom on just not so much how to get selected, but how to be lucky enough to get selected.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
Unfortunately, 3 times wasn't the charm, and I was able to have a good 5 years in the 82nd.
Right.
But after the last time I went to selection, the third time I went to PSYOP selection, and I'll tell you what, that was a grinder.
Nice.
That was a grinder. But I didn't got non-selected, and it was a pretty big check to the ego because you can't go back, a 3-time limit, whatever.
Yep.
But I determined, it took a few months to realize this, but I determined, I'm like, just because I'm not a part of a tier 1 organization doesn't mean I can't be a tier 1 individual.
Correct.
And I think likewise, you're the living, breathing example of that. You're not part of a tier 1 organization anymore.
Correct. Yep.
But I think you absolutely embody what it means to be a tier 1 individual in your fitness, in your community, in inspiring those around you. Because you can't swing a dead cat around Southern Pines without knowing Pat Mack. He's down in O'Donnell's every day is Monday, and every night's Saturday.
Every night is Saturday night. Every morning is Monday morning.
How'd you come up with that one?
I was grinding way too much. I was working myself to death. I was getting sick. I was falling apart. A lot of stuff was happening to me, physically, mentally. Work was good, but I fell into this, not rut, but into like this perpetual motion machine where I had to keep working and I couldn't say no to anybody. Once COVID, the lockdown happened, that's when I changed my attitude completely. And I realized that you need to shut down at a certain time of day in order to be healthy. If I'm at home, I'm going to work until 9 at night every night. I'm just going to keep going. But I realized, you know what? I need to shut down time where I shut everything down like 5, 6 at night, somewhere around there, and just come downtown, go somewhere, have a pint, just to decompress, just to get away from the house, outside, around other people, just to disconnect from the computer and disconnect from work. Also, when you're an entrepreneur, when you have your own business, you don't have weekends.
No.
It's when people say, hey, have a great Friday, and they say, have a great weekend. I'm looking at them like, huh? Oh, all right. Yeah. No. I still have to work. Every day's a work day. So I realized, that's just what it is. Every day's Monday for me. Every single day. So I have to keep that in mind. I want to do something. I want to decompress every night, have a couple beers, have a couple bourbons, whatever it is, every night, smoke a cigar now and then. But I'm not going to party my ass off so I can't function the next day. So it's kind of a reminder too. Every night's Saturday night, but keep in mind, every morning is Monday morning. You can't get shit-faced and freaking sleep until 10, 11 in the morning. You've still got to be responsible. But that responsibility also means you're responsible to yourself, your mental health, your wife, your kids. So you need to disconnect, party with your kids, go outside, play with them, whatever it is. Just get out and do something.
Read them a book.
Read them a book.
A good children's book. I think I know of one coming out pretty soon.
That's right. Yep, that's right.
So what number book is this going to be?
This will be, well, if you include ebook, this will be number 4. So I did 4. TAPS, tactical application of practical shooting. I wrote that. It was kind of out of sense of urgency to secure intellectual property.
Okay.
Because there were a lot of echoes out there. So I had this training methodology that other people saw, and they started giving it a name or copying it. And I was like, oh my God, I've got a good idea. How can I secure this? So once again, if you have a good idea, be careful with whom you share it and try to trademark, copyright as quickly as you can. That property, because it's property, but it's intellectual property. So you want to make sure you secure that. So TAPS was the first book just to kind of secure intellectual property. I mean, people loved it. It's a marksmanship book. It's fits in your cargo pocket and you can take notes. And it's not a literary masterpiece by any means. The next one I wrote, Sentinel, how to be the agent in charge of your own executive protection detail, that's a fun read with a lot of lessons to be learned. I think I wrote that in 2013. And man, did it apply in 2020. So all the people who were following my Sentinel program were like, oh, thank you, Pat Mack, for putting out that book and keep putting out all these PSAs on Sunday Sentinel Sermon, because once the pandemic hit, I wasn't one of these people looking for gas or toilet paper. Are you kidding me? So all the people who followed me, they were ready. They had prep supplies. They had know-how. They were working out. They were ready to protect their families. So that was the second one, or that was the third one. The second one was combat strength training, just the ebook. So it's like 35 pages long. So this will be my 4th book, but I think this will be my most important one.
You think so?
Yeah, it's 18 pages, but I think I want it to be my most important because I could influence a generation, I could influence the next generation, have a positive influence. And like I said, I'm not going to disclose how right now because, man, there's a lack of imagination and creativity out there, and people are ready to glom onto it and steal other people's ideas. Yep. And I mean, it's happened to me plenty of times before. It'll happen again in the future.
Well, I've talked about this with a couple of my friends on the show, but we're calling it Johnny Apple seeding.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Where you're planting a seed for a generation that you'll probably never get to see come to fruition.
Correct.
And right now we see a lot of that happening in a bad way.
Yep.
There's a lot of bad players, bad guys that are Johnny Apple seeding. We were just kind of talking about it earlier with Baxter, the owner of Casino, about TikTok.
Right.
He was talking about TikTok and how they're kind of listening in and all the craziness with their rules and stuff like that. But they're absolutely Johnny Apple seeding adversely to what you're trying to do.
Yep. And that's intentional. You know, it's intentional because people are easily manipulatable. You know, they're malleable, and we're becoming more and more easy to manipulate. More and more. Our attention span's dropping. The attention span of a human being now on social media is less than that of a goldfish. Goldfish is 9 seconds. Human being is 8. So anytime I post something, each clip is 8 seconds.
Really?
Oh, yeah. If you look at any of my stuff, the workout stuff, the basic dude stuff, the clips don't go for more than 8 seconds. Yep, and they're back to back to back to back to back because I want to captivate an audience. So there's a little secret for you influencers out there. Little secret. But I think it's intentional. Bad people want people dumbed down. They want them to be completely reliant upon this electronic messaging. Yeah, it's horrible and it's scary. You know, and parents are allowing their kids to watch this garbage that is poisoning their little teeny minds. Yeah, it's toxic.
Did you see any of that when you were in East Berlin?
No.
That dumbed down.
No. That was different. No, that was different. That was propaganda and stuff,
okay.
Which is a different level of subliminal or brain manipulation. That's a completely different type. It wasn't necessarily dumbing down. It was subservience, where I think we are here. We're subservient now in a different type of way. Where and people are taught to. Oh man, you're gonna get me on soapbox. What time is it right now? Well, the things people are because we're easily influenced. The media's taking advantage of that because it's a moneymaker. It's to be confused, to be angry, to be fearful. Those are moneymakers, and that's all the news propagates. It's just all this gobbledygook of fear messaging and confusion and hate. Because, damn, it makes money because it's captivating. People want to see that. That's why I want nothing to do with that on any of my feeds. There's been times where I've wanted to do a rebuttal or call somebody out because I have this platform. I am not going to do it. I refuse. During all of the summer of 2020 when it was all
nuts.
It was ugly. Well, of course, I mean, as far as the media was concerned, there were no freaking riots. There wasn't $10 billion in damages and dozens killed. It never happened. But it was brutal. It was, and that went on for months. And, there were some news outlets that just constant bombardment of all that stuff. And then on the other hand, on the flip side, it was just, the media talking about what it was hate, racism, fear of virus, all this stuff. And it's nonstop. And what, most of it is BS? Most of it.
Yeah.
It's most of it. So we're teaching kids now, little kids. They're, this is a safe space to say this. But kids are being confused, right? At an early age. Gender confusion. Dude, talk about making me angry. There's no place in a little kid's brain for gender confusion or a racial explanation of any kind. Kids don't know that stuff. Or to mask them up or to vax them with an experimental vaccination against a virus that has no way of hurting them. None. And then to have them masked up so they're gonna be like, it's going to have severe adverse effects on them in the future with communication skills, facial recognition. And kids are supposed to get sick. That's the other thing. Kids are supposed to get sick. And now we're bubble wrapping them and bathing them in Purell. It's absolutely sickening. And it's, I'll say this too, for any of those parents out there who do that, it is child abuse. Yep, I'm sticking by that.
So what would you say is what would you advise, kids my age, right? Mm-hmm. Early 20s, late 20s, new parents, fresh parents. I mean,
cool.
I'm not a parent,
Yep,
but
yep.
that's definitely on the horizon. Hopefully soon, maybe.
Right.
But what would you say to help combat that?
Well, one of the and this is hard. This is a very tough one. Is try to be disciplined and don't allow an excess of electronic babysitting. It's a tough one because it's so easy to slip a kid a device or put a tablet up in front of them. It's so easy, and they are going to be consumed with that. They're going to go from crying their head off to peace and quiet. So it's very tempting. It's extremely tempting. But you know what? My kids didn't have that, and they were fine. And man, I partied with my kids when they were little kids because their mom wasn't responsible. Mm-hmm. So I single parented them, and I thought it was easy. You know, people say, "Oh man, single parenting is the hardest thing ever." I wasn't only taking care of them, but their drug addict mother as well. I was taking care of her at the same time. So avoid the temptation of electronic babysitting. I mean, they got to have some of it. You know, a good clean cartoon every once in a while. Maybe have them watch reruns of Mr. Rogers. You know, something like that. Something real clean. Because that was one of the cleanest TV shows growing up that I had. My parents loved that we watched Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood. Another one is spend that time with them. They're fun, man. They're little human beings. I mean, because you have these phases, right, where they're 100% completely dependent upon you, where you have to carry them, feed them, change them, and it's nonstop, right? So they're 100% completely dependent on you. But after they start walking, to me, it was like entertainment value. I was like, oh man, I'm taking them anywhere I can and everywhere. And the more you take them places, the easier it becomes because the less they cut up and the more familiar they are to exploring new spaces. So it became easy. I took them everywhere, and it was easy. I flew with them across country by myself several times. Now that could be risky business right there. That's no easy venture. So anytime I see a mom traveling with two little kids by herself, I am like first one to help out. I'm not asking her. I'm like, let me carry that kiddie seat and that diaper bag off the plane for you. And if you need an extra hand out there setting up your stroller, I will do that too. I'm not asking.
Now your kids are a little bit older now, yeah?
Yeah, they're all older now.
So what do you try and instill and reinforce with them now that they're a little bit older and they're, I mean, I don't know how old your kids are, but you know, I'm assuming they're probably close to my age somewhere. No,
they're 19 and 21 and a 31.
Okay.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
So that's pretty that's a pretty influential age though.
Yep.
I mean, you have the little kid influence and then they go through their growth cycle, but I don't know what it is, but kids around that
yeah, man,
19 to 21,
the goofy teenager years.
Well, they need to find themselves,
right? And that's tough. So I give them space on that stuff. I give them a lot of space. I try not to, because I hear them chatting about like the gender confusion thing. Yeah, so and so. Oh, he's a they, them, or I don't get it. Whatever, whatever it is, I don't get it. But I don't eye roll or anything. Mm-hmm. Like, all right, they're at that goofy age right now. But one of the things I do, my parenting leadership style, is lead by example. That's all. So I like little stuff like I leave the kitchen spotless because they still live with me, and we don't live in a big space. So we have 4 grown human beings living in a small space. So like common areas, I'm adamant about, hey, and I just talked to him yesterday again, just reminded him, common areas. Nope. No. Common areas, dude. We're all responsible for the common areas. It's not my job to clean that kitchen every day. But they see me always getting after it. So my kids don't see me sitting in a recliner on Sunday afternoon watching a football game with a rack of beer and a bag of chips open. They see me working out every day, even when I don't want to. They see me choring when I don't want to. They know, I just know it needs, and I always tell them that too. Like I tell my son James, I'll say, well, got to put my headband on. And I put my headband on because it's like my Batman cape. It's like, part of my uniform when I work out. So that's the first step. Because do I feel like it every day? No, I do not. I don't feel like it. But I need to dress the part and then show up. So they always see that. I'm like, yeah, I got to go. And it could be raining out and 40 degrees, or it could be sunny and 98. And my gym is in my driveway. So they see that. They see that, I take care of my property. Mm-hmm. That's a big one. Take care of your property. I reminded my son today about that. I went in. I knew he borrowed a tool. It's whatever. Needle nose pliers. I needed them. They weren't in their space. So I said, hey, you got my needle nose? He goes, oh, yeah, I was using them. I said, yep. I didn't remind him, hey, when you're done with it, put it back. I'm not that kind of parent. I'm more of a watch what I do type of parent. Because they know that. They know where to get them.
Yeah.
Because they're always in the same spot. They know where the batteries are. They know where tools are. They know where the remote is. They know where all the things are in the house that are, common, that we all use. Because they all have a spot. So just put it back. Just put it back in that same spot. They see that my cars are clean, that there's no crap inside of them. They see that I take care of myself. They see what I eat. It's hard to get a kid to eat healthy. Yeah. So I always remind them, I joke about it because I meal prep and my food is meat and veg. So I just do a big pan of meat and veg and I'll scoop it out and I'll remind the kids, hey kids, I have food on the stove. What is it? I go, it's food, which is boring,
Yeah.
They don't want food. They want, pasta and crunchy stuff and, and toaster strudels and stuff that you could put in the air fryer.
Are they as hobby-centric as you are? Because you're a pretty hobby-heavy guy.
Yep. A lot of that, the apple didn't roll far from the tree on a lot of that stuff, especially the artsy-fartsy side. My daughters are very artsy-fartsy, like hands-on, on paper. My son is musically inclined. Matter of fact, he changed his major yesterday. And I just went, good for you. But like musical theory or something like that, I'm like, yeah, that's what you need. I'm like, it's a 2-year school. Mm-hmm. So I'm like, yes, please do that because he loves it and he's got a knack for it. Yeah,
well, that musical theory is, that's like learning another language.
Right. But he's got a knack for it. Because he's a 50-pound brain.
Oh, yeah. Well, and you're a musician as well. Like that music. Yeah. According to, those who have played with you, you are.
I fake it, man. I like to, people say, can you play? I go, nah, I can jam.
That's a good way to put
it. I mean, you'd think I was a good drummer because I could play a basic beat. Like I have an internal metronome, but there's no flash. It's more like AC/DC style. It's basic beat with a couple simple rolls, that kind of thing.
Didn't you have a band going for a little bit with one of your teammates?
Yeah, they used to come to the house when I was a single guy. And man, there was great musicians in the unit. I mean, like open up sheet music and pull out Hangar 18 from Megadeth. And I'm like, how can you do that? They could just read. I couldn't read music. And then so I ended up being the vocals because I played drums and guitar, but I don't play drums and guitar. These guys can rock. So give me a mic. I'll sing. Because I'm a good front man, I can command a stage.
You got the energy for it.
Yeah.
That's wild. A lot of unit dudes are musicians like
Dude,
that.
There was so much talent there in so many different fields. It's unbelievable. I mean, with auto mechanics, woodworking, building houses, farming, hunting, music, it just went on and on and on. Most of the guys would specialize though, in like a couple things where I didn't specialize in anything. I just did it all. I don't think there's any one thing except for shooting, that I specialize in.
Were you as hobby heavy prior to
my life?
All your life?
Yep, all my life. I wanted to learn new. I was just very interested in learning new things. And most of it was artsy-fartsy stuff, really. It wasn't like I learned how to rebuild, rebuild motors and stuff like that. I mean, I work on a motor, but most of it was artsy fartsy stuff, drawing, photography, music, that kind of stuff. Yeah.
So, oh geez, you know how it is when
you got to, you got to, what's that? Tweak, not a tweak, you got a little.
Well, I've been powerlifting lately.
Oh, right, yes.
And so, like, I'm, feeling good, pulling like 275 on my hang cleans.
Yeah.
But,
Woo, nice.
That it comes at a cost.
Oh, yeah.
So, for a lot of these listeners,
a twinge. That's what it was.
A twinge, yeah.
Where
it's the muscular thing.
Right where you pointed. Yep. Oh, yeah.
So, for a lot of listeners, they're like that 24 to 34 range. I was just looking at my analytics, right?
Yep.
What would you say are the most critical components to being a tier 1 individual?
Whoo, damn. Let me see. Well,
that's kind of a big can to open, but
yeah, right. I mean, because there's so many of them. You've got to have resolve. You got to learn. Big one is the ability to fail quickly. Don't spend a lot of time failing. Spend a very short amount of time failing, because you're going to fail a lot. But you have to be able to flip that switch and go into contingency planning mode immediately. Immediately, just right into it. Because a lot of people can't do that. They hit an obstacle, let's say, in a planning phase or an operational phase or in a school or something like that, and they hit that obstacle and they fall apart. You've got to be able to be resolute and pick yourself up, because it's just an obstacle. Remind yourself, it's just an obstacle. It's not a barrier. It's an obstacle, not a barrier. But you got to be able to get over that quickly. That's a big one. I think a lot of people don't cover that. A lot of people, I think, like, the stereotypical or the common answers would be, well, you got to be tough, you got to grind hard, you got to reach down, you got to feel no pain. I think mine's a better answer. Man, fail quickly. Yeah. And accept it. You've got to accept it. It can't be part of your plan, that, there's probably going to be failure, but it's got to be in the recesses. In the event that shit doesn't go exactly as planned, I have to be able to flip a switch and go into contingency mode quickly. So that's a big one. Another one, this is a tough one for a younger guy, because I failed at this miserably. The ability to stay healthy. Because when you're 24 to 30, that's probably when your ego is the biggest. So it's easy to overwork. Like, man, I wanted to be the best and fittest at everything. So somebody was fitter, I was working out harder, which meant in a lot of cases that I was breaking my body down and more susceptible to injury at that moment. So staying healthy was a big one, because you're not good at listening to your body, nor is it permissible a lot of times in the special ops community to listen to your body, because you've got to go. So you've got to listen to your body and know when to lay off of, when to pull the throttle back, when to tug on those reins a little bit. So I think those are two pretty good answers right there. Never thought about that. I don't think I've ever been asked that question before, but I'm going to stick with those two.
Yeah, I mean, that sounds about right. I mean, I wouldn't know, because that's experience that I don't have.
Yep.
But that is definitely the trajectory that I shoot for.
Yep.
Now that it's going to be outside of the military, how do I achieve that higher level of performance compared to everybody? I mean, you see it with you see it in other job scopes. You have like your Tom Brady's,
yep.
And it's exactly what you said. What has made Tom Brady so successful? He failed quickly.
Yep.
And he is probably the healthiest player in the NFL.
Right. Oh, yeah.
And it has resulted in an incredible career.
Yeah. All right. So There we go.
There you go. See, Tom Brady is tier 1.
He's following my advice.
Tom Brady took all of his lessons from Pat Mack.
Nah, that was great. That was great that you drew that comparison. Yeah.
Well, I've noticed it paying attention, like a couple of other guys in the community where there is just such this like insane drive. Just like you said, if there was someone who was fitter, you're working out harder.
Yep.
And a lot of people they can't even conceptualize that. Like, I think I first realized it when I met Richard Petty.
Mm-hmm. Oh,
and
cool.
That dude, I mean, he's old now,
yep.
but the most winning race car driver ever. In history. Mm-hmm. What possesses somebody to be that great?
Right.
And it's the same thing that possesses a Tom Brady to be Tom Brady, a Michael Jordan to be Michael Jordan, a Pat McNamara to be a Pat McNamara. Right. And shoot for that like standard of excellence where you're not competing against necessarily other people. Other people are there to keep you competitive and sharpen your edge, but really competing against yourself in that.
And always look to level up. Always look to level up. You can't accept mediocrity. You can't say, well, I'm in a good place right now and I'm 30 years old and I'm just going to stay here. Yeah, always look to level up.
Now, towards the end of the show, I always like to ask all my guests how you like to eat your steak.
There's only one way to eat a steak.
Okay, I'm interested.
All right. I mean, cooked, it's medium rare.
Mm-hmm.
It's got to be.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, forget about it. And then salt, pepper, butter.
Salt, pepper, butter.
That's it.
Do you have a preferred cut or style of cooking it?
New York strip.
New York strip.
Yeah, that's a man's cut, in my opinion. Yeah. I mean, ribeye is great. T-bone, they're all great, right? Filet is great, but it's a little, petite. It's not as manly as a strip or a ribeye or a T-bone.
Yeah.
But yeah, medium rare and nothing on it but salt, pepper, butter. That's it.
Do you have like a preferred like cast iron, open flame, lump charcoal?
I don't really, because my wife does them pan. Mm-hmm. She does them like Gordon Ramsay. I do them on the grill. But when I go into town, there's a place I go. I had steak last night. They grill them, and I don't know how, man, it's unfreaking believable. I mean, they're always perfectly medium rare.
Really?
Always. And I sit at the bar and watch them cook. And they do open flame. But they let them sit, too. I mean, they flash cook them on the flame for just a short amount of time. And then they let them set. And I'm like, how do you know? How do you gauge that time? Because I'm talking to the chef while it's behind, and I'm looking at it. I'm like, I can't do that on my grill. There's no way.
Have you ever tried the caveman style? It's this new. So my buddy showed it to me. Right. He lives out in Charlotte, and you get lump oak charcoal.
Okay.
And you get it white hot, and you throw your steak directly on the charcoal.
All right.
Directly on there.
All right.
And you just time it 3-4 minutes each side, and then when it's ready, it's ready. But it just adds this incredible flavor, and it gets that I like a medium rare, but I also like a little bit of char on the edges.
Oh, I love the char.
You gotta
Big
get
fan
the
of char.
Well, and it also gets that fat, just real liquidy.
Right, I'm doing it. I'll do it on Sunday.
There you go.
Yep. I was trying to think, when do I have time to do that? All right, I'm going to do that. I'm going to try it out.
But yeah, you get the
what do they call it? Caveman style?
Caveman style, cowboy style, something
cowboy
like that.
Style, good.
Because it's
I'll look it up on the interwebs, so I'm not goofing up the name.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, see, I'm the same way, like 129 degrees, like that perfect medium rare.
Yep.
And I'll have to get that restaurant in town from you because that.
Yeah. It's right down here.
Just
a block.
I have yet to find a restaurant that can prepare a medium rare steak.
And you got to sit at the bar. Today is a good day. They shouldn't be jam packed. Yep. Sit at the bar. I'll introduce you to the chef.
That'd be amazing.
Yep. Because I'm heading down that way after this.
So, where can people follow you, Pat?
Almost everything that I have is under my T-Max Inc. banner, TMACSINC. So that's combat strength training. That's University of Badassery. That's my Instagram. That's my website, all that stuff. And then I have a YouTube channel, the Pat Mac YouTube channel. And then I have an online coaching squad. It's called the Pat Mac Keep the Blaze Alive Coaching Squad on Patreon. So I got all that stuff.
Heck yeah. Now, I just got to add this because this is, I mean, I hope you realize how cool this is. So I was probably, I knew that I wanted to join the military when I was like 14, 15. And what really was the catalyst, because at the time there was a lot of like this Navy SEAL propaganda stuff. You know, American Sniper had just come out, was the book, you know, all that, all that stuff. And it was I think it was a video on Facebook or YouTube, and my dad showed it to me. And you know, my dad and I, we've been shooters, you know, whatever. And this was before the American Sheriff was the American Sheriff.
Right. Yeah.
And he shows me this video of this guy, and it was a drill doing it between two barriers, just, you know, like running, gunning, and just hitting, you know, control pair, you know, running 40 yards across, control pair, running 40 yards across, control pair. And he was like, oh man, you got to check this guy out. He's like some kind of Army Ranger, something like that. And I was like, bro, this is the guy right here. And started deep diving into those videos when I was like, seriously, like 14.
Oh, right
on.
And
that was like the catalyst where I was like, okay, like there's something other than SEALs out there.
Yep.
And there are dudes that are getting after it. I'm about it.
Yep.
And it turns out I actually found the video like 10 years later. But I was like, I wonder if I can find that video again. Turns out it was the Pat McNamara.
Oh, cool. Right on.
Yeah,
I was wondering, was that me?
No, it was one of your like original videos. I think you were wearing like the BCM, you know, tan shirt, and just getting after it. I think the goatee, the beard was a little bit shorter at the time.
Yep. I know the drill you're talking about. It was set it off. That's what it was. Set it off. Yep.
Well, Pat, thank you so much for coming on our show. It's been an absolute honor to have you here, and it's always great to bump elbows with you and get to have these conversations.
Thanks, my man. Appreciate being here, and appreciate your audience listening.
We'll have to do another one of these, you know, before the next 5 year, before you know, within another 5 years, something like last time.
Yeah, don't wait another 5 years. Easy breezy.
For those of you guys listening, thank you for tuning in. And if you want to support the podcast, go to fearnotdoright.com. We got a lot of great merch. And despite what it may seem like, the merch actually came the brand actually came before the podcast. So if you want to go support the show, hit it up there, and follow us on social media at Fear Not Do Right, Facebook Fear Not Do Right. And until next time, do just that and fear not. And do right. Pat Mac, thanks again for coming on.
Right on. Rock and roll.